Hi, this is Eric Altman, Bigfoot researcher from Pennsylvania, and you're listening to the Bigfoot Club podcast.
I wanted to mention, if you're listening to Bigfoot Club on any of these platforms, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Stitcher, Google Play, Alexa, YouTube, Listen Notes, or Deezer, please give us a comment, give us a 5-star rating, give us a subscription, give us a follow. We would greatly appreciate it. Also, please like and follow us on social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can find us by searching Bigfoot Club, the number 1. If you have any Bigfoot, paranormal, or just strange stories, please email us at bigfootclub1@gmail.com. Please check out Matt Knapp's YouTube channel, Bigfoot Crossroads, and Planet Fear Podcasts. Planet Fear Podcasts can be found on any platform. Also, give a listen to Nightcaller's Bigfoot Radio on YouTube with Lauren Smith. Nightcaller's Bigfoot Radio is also found on many other platforms. So if you enjoy the show and would like Bigfoot Club to keep making episodes, then perhaps you would consider supporting the show. You can do this by donating to our PayPal link. These donations will support Bigfoot Club to continue to bring episodes and content. Thank you so much for your support. Hey everybody, Robert Jesse Dominguez, Bigfoot Club, Season 3, Episode 3. I'm here with Ash and Steven. Hey guys, how's it going?
Great.
Fantabulous.
We had some difficulties earlier, but
yeah, it happens.
Yeah, so before we start, I just wanted to say we have a new logo. It was done by Jonathan Dodd, which I thank him immensely. He did a great job on it. So if anybody that's on the Facebook page or the Twitter or the Instagram page, if you could just check it out, check out our new logo. We're going to be moving forward on that on merch and stuff. So I'm lining up some possible vendors so I can start putting out some merch and stuff. So
excited. I
am excited too. So I mean, I still got one more commission person that's just doing some artwork, so I'm pretty excited about that. So, but anyway.
Yeah, and y'all will be too when you see it. From what I've seen so far.
Steven, did you like it?
Oh yeah, I thought it was kind of like the original, but like it's tweaked enough to where it's still badass, and it's still can I say badass?
Yes. We're unrestricted.
Yeah, sorry. No, I like it. I really like it a lot. I was like, oh sweet, it's like it's still there. People won't get confused and be like, yeah, that's Bigfoot Club.
Yeah.
I said we need flags.
Yeah, I'd like that too, because we could use it for conventions and stuff. We can put it on front of the table. But what I kind of liked about it, go ahead, Steven.
No, I was gonna say we can redo the shirts.
Yes, yes. What I liked about it is that I had a hard time finding a Bigfoot skull.
Well,
because there's no Bigfoot skull. There's Gigantopithecus, but that's it. And there's no frontal shot of it, and there's no drawings of it. So I had whenever I was talking to Jonathan Dodd about it, I said, this is what I want, but I want it in black and white, and I want it, facing, forward. I don't want the jaw. I just want the skull and stuff. So he did a great job on it, and he did it in one night. So it was a great turnaround time. Impressive. Yeah, it's very impressive. So, but
most impressive.
So. On that note, I just wanted to talk about we have a guest today, and I'm really, really happy. I've been trying to get him for a couple of weeks, and I know timing wise it's been kind of off a little bit, but I wanted to introduce. Hopefully, I'm not gonna mess this up. Happy Harry Hardon, Zombie Bukowski, Ray Ramos, comic book poet, founding fathers of indie comics in El Paso, Texas. Member of the 656 comic faction, has been publishing since the mid 90s with Dead Tree Comics imprint. He's written for Heavy Metal magazine, impressive. He's published his own comic books. Let me see here. Published his own comic books in El Paso for the first Latin superhero El Valiente. And he's getting ready to put out a mashup of the Cryptidnals. Ray Ramos, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Jesse. I truly, truly appreciate it. This is a great opportunity that's blessed me with, so thank you for that. I do appreciate it very much.
No problem, man. Before we get started, I wanted to talk to you about this really quick. I'm not sure if you know about it, because my older brother, Richard Dominguez, does El Gato Negro. And I'm currently writing some stories for him. And I'm working on one right now called, it's the Aztec sun god, Tanatu. And I'm writing the story off the War of Independence.
Nice.
So your character, El Valiente, is on there, right?
Yes, sir. El Valiente is part of the War of the Independence, and he teams up with El Gato. So yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that.
Yes. So I'm writing that right now. So this is the story, and I don't want to make this about me. I'm just saying, but this is something I've always dreamt about doing for him, and he gave me the like this opportunity to do it for this character that he's been drawing since I was a kid, and he asked me to draw it, and he hasn't written any stories about it. He says, I want you to write this story. I said, okay, I'm doing it. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that to you. That way you knew about it. Well,
let me just say this really quickly. Richard has always been an inspiration to us. Coming up, in El Paso, we didn't have a lot of, Latino superheroes that we could look up to. And the first time that we discovered El Gato Negro back in the 90s, we were like, holy crap, man, these guys are doing, what we want to do. Richard's doing what we want to do. We want to do superheroes, but of course, Latino, Hispanic twist. And that inspired us beyond words, and we started doing our own characters that had, that heritage, that had that whole background of, Latin America, Hispanic, all that stuff. And so when you said right now, El Valiente is the first Latino hero, no, El Gato Negro is the first Latino hero I consider. El Valiente is just from El Paso. He's the first Latino hero from El Paso, but El Gato inspired El Valiente. So yeah, that's awesome, man. I'm glad to hear that. Fuck yeah. I'm sorry.
No. Ray, you're fine. This is unrestricted. You can say whatever you want to say.
Oh, okay.
You can say whatever you want. Fuck, whatever. So,
Cool.
we're that podcast that we're anti-heroes.
People complain about.
Yeah.
Mostly me, and that's hilarious. It's like I don't know. I guess I'm worse than the rest of y'all, but whatever.
No, man. We're just very opinionated. That's all we are. We're opinionated.
I got a dirty mouth. I don't care.
No worries.
I've always been that way, and they just eventually gave up with me.
Foul-mouthed Batman.
Foul-mouthed Batman.
Awesome.
Ray, I wanted to get started about your current project you're working on right now. Are you writing and creating this of the Cryptidnals?
Yes, I am the writer and the creator of the Cryptidnals. I have the artist is also kind of a co-creator as well because he came up with the visuals, of course, and his name is Ruben Dario. He's based out of Juarez, Mexico, and he's also part of 6x6 Comics. Nice.
I wanted to ask you how you got started on this particular storyline. What did you do? What did you do to prepare for it? I mean, what inspired you to do about these creatures?
Well, it's interesting that you asked that because I was just thinking about that the other day, where I started coming up with brainstorming these whole ideas, and it's a silly I guess point in time, but at the same time it just developed into this huge thing. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with Kentucky Fried Movie.
Yes, mm-hmm. Yes. I actually tweet the guy. He tweets to me all the time. The creator for that. I forgot his name.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's awesome. So I was watching Kentucky Fried Movie. This was a few years ago. This was in 2017. I was watching Kentucky Fried Movie and I hadn't watched it in a very long time. And I've always been fascinated by cryptids. I've always loved the research, everything that goes into cryptozoology. Done my own investigations. My experiences themselves, were crazy. But when I was watching Kentucky Fried Movie this one time, I picked up on something I never picked up before, and that was that one segment that they have. Oh, you know what? It wasn't. I'm sorry, I take it back. It wasn't Kentucky Fried Movie. It was Amazon Women on the Moon. There we go.
Okay.
So in Amazon Women on the Moon, there's a segment that they have where it's called Bullshit or Not, and they come out talking about Jack the Ripper, and they're like, what if Jack the Ripper was actually the Loch Ness Monster? And they have this scene where the Loch Ness Monster comes out in old Victorian England, and he's dressed like Jack the Ripper, and he's seducing these prostitutes. And I was like, holy crap. Wow, that just blew my mind for some reason. I don't know why. I had watched the movie so many times before. And I started brainstorming more and more and more, and I was like, what if, Bigfoot fought the rake? Or what if La Llorona fought like a werewolf? Or what if, I started coming up with all this crazy ideas. And I said, yeah, you know what? What if there was a comic that's never been done before? Kind of like the X-Men, but not really. More based in horror and in science fiction. And that was kind of like that. Because I had seen other comics that were cryptid-oriented, but it always took like a tongue-in-cheek kind of attitude towards them, and they were, comedic. But this one, I wanted it to be serious. I wanted it to be scary. And the word that I always used, especially with audio, with the artist, I used disturbing. I want it to be disturbing. I want people to look at the art and be like, oh my God, what the hell is going on there? So I started brainstorming, and I started coming up with all these ideas of how cryptids can interact in the world. There was a secret society of cryptids. Everything was interconnected, and then I had to come up with villains. But at the same time, I was thinking, man, there's a lot of stuff going on in Texas. Like, there's so much cryptid lore in Texas. We got Bigfoot, we got the Dogman, we got the Goatman, La Llorona, of course, Chupacabras, everything is here. So I decided to base it more on cryptids of Texas and the Southwest than across the U.S. And that's where I started the idea from right there. I started gathering all this information and all the cryptids that I was familiar with, and then started diving deeper into it.
So is this story, is it like all around Texas, or is this based in El Paso?
It's based in New Mexico. It's based in, I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but I'm sure you guys have heard about this place. It's Sandia, New Mexico, and there's a plateau there. In Dulce, New Mexico, there's a plateau, and the plateau is sacred to the natives in the area, but the government has a facility, of course, allegedly, a facility inside the plateau. And I read about this story about back in the 70s that there was a firefight between the U.S. military and aliens inside the plateau because the aliens were conducting these crazy experiments. And there was a whistleblower that came out on YouTube, and he was talking about these aliens that came out, and they had laser weapons, and they were disintegrating military soldiers, and he was talking about it, and then the guy ends up dead, and I was like, holy crap. So I started basing it off of that, and I'm like, okay, so what really did happen in the 70s? What occurred that these aliens fought humans, and who would defend the humans? And I'm like, man, you know what? It'd be awesome if I could tie in the cryptids into this. So I started doing more research, started gathering my, team of cryptids, and inserting them into this situation that occurred back in the 70s.
I just wanted to tell you that I went to Sandia Mountain when I was 7.
Oh man, that's awesome! I live so close by, and I've never been. You would think I would go.
Yeah.
And how was it? What happened?
Well, I went when I was 7, and I think at the time we went up to the mountain because I think we had drove into town, and we bought a bunch of stuff from local tribes there, and I bought I think a blanket or something and some wrist bracelets and stuff, and so we drove up to Sandia. And my mom didn't let me go any further than the parking lot. She says, no, you got to stay here. I said, but I want to go. And she didn't let me go. And I think my aunt and my uncle, my dad and my mom went up to the mountain. I had to wait in the car.
Oh, wow.
So I was not a happy camper, but I did go there, and I did feel like it was to me, it was a great experience. And I didn't get to, go any further than that, but I just wanted to mention that really quick. So,
oh man, I and it's sad for me. It's tragic on my end because it's so close by, and I could go, in a day and come back.
Yeah.
But I've never done it, and I've never convinced the wife to do it either. Maybe it's something that I should do before I get further into releasing the book. But so that story stuck with me, and that's when I started coming up with the idea that maybe the cryptids that were around, that have been around, made a stand there. They made a stand with the humans. They intervened, and they saved, this reality or whatever you want to call it from this intergalactic threat that nobody knew about.
Yeah.
And then I started doing more research, and I found out that one of my favorite cryptids of all time had been sighted in this area. And I was like, holy crap, how did that happen? So apparently back in the 50s and 60s, Spring Heel Jack was sighted in New Mexico. And I was like, oh, that's perfect because I love Spring Heel Jack. So I wanted to integrate that also. And so that was my first cryptid that I put on the team. And then after that, I went down the list, like who else is available? And I'm like, La Llorona, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I got to put La Llorona on the team. And that's where I started thinking. And I've never heard anywhere in any of the fiction, nonfiction, anything that I've ever read or seen as far as movies are concerned, where La Llorona was considered the hero. She's always been this tragic figure that murdered her children. And, she's never been redeemed. And I was like, you know what? That has to change. So I took La Llorona and I gave her this backstory that coincides with everything that happened to her and gave her a reason for being the way that she was. And that's another cryptid that I put on there. So for the first time ever in the comic, La Llorona is featured as an actual hero. So I don't want to give away too much about how that's done either, but I went down the list after that, and I started thinking about Texas. Of course, you got to have the Goat Man from Denton. You got to throw him in there some way, somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And then here in El Paso, there is a little suburb called San Elizario, Texas, and there is a legend of a man dog. Not to be confused with the dog man. There's only one man dog, and the man dog apparently is a cursed Texas Ranger that died during the Salt Wars back in the 1880s, and was cursed to roam the earth like a dog, never finding his place. And if you go to San Elizario at certain times of night, supposedly, allegedly, you will see this Texas Ranger walking around in a long trench coat with the head of a dog. And I was like, wow, that's creepy. So I gave him a backstory. I threw him in there. And then I started thinking, well, what else? What was the intergalactic threat? What happened in Sandia? And I had to have some sort of connection to that. And I always loved Cthulhu. So I threw Cthulhu in there. But in this case, he's reduced to a child. So he's an elder god that's trapped inside a child's body. So we call him Kid Cthulhu. And he's part of the Cryptidnals team as well. And last but not least, and this is inspiration, of course, from reading like El Gato, reading all these Latino heroes that I discovered back in the 90s, we have Quetzalcoatl, which is a reincarnation of the feathered serpent. And it's a she, and she's part of the team as well. So that's how I came up with the core team for the book.
Wow, that's I never even thought of doing something like that, and I think about stories all the time. And I just wanted to tell you also, I'm really digging the art. I'm digging it completely because like I'm really visual because I read a ton of comics. I got like 6,000 comics right now.
Is that all?
You got to.
So I'm really digging the art. Because I know you kind of gave me like a sneak peek of up like 3-4 panels, and I was looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't give it away or nothing, but I was just saying, I think that whenever you look at the artwork, something like this, and you haven't put like letters or any kind of reading stuff in it, just the panels by themselves can tell the story. And I'm following the story without even like reading anything, and it's like I really really love that. And so it's very smooth, and I whenever it comes out, I want to be like one of the very very first ones to buy it. So. Because I'm really digging it a lot, man. I just want you to know that.
I'm thanking you so much on that. I'm glad we've gotten a lot of positive reaction for this, and I'm really really excited. We're getting ready to launch the campaign. Hopefully by mid-April. We had a little setback because we had another book that we have to deliver first. It's called Undead Border. It's about zombies on the border, using zombies as a metaphor for everything that's going on the border. And we just got the proofs back for that book. So we're going to be fulfilling that campaign in the next coming weeks. And as soon as we're done with that one, we're going to launch the Cryptidnals. And of course, I'm going to let you know, hopefully I can be back on your show just to plug it, that it's out.
Absolutely.
But I'll send you all that information as well. So, but yeah, man, I mean, I've always loved this genre. I've always loved, comics, of course, but the cryptozoology aspect of it has always fascinated me, especially like, things that I've witnessed myself. And before I get any further, I gotta present to you the villain, because of course you gotta have a villain in the story. And I started thinking like, well, if the cryptids are like this powerful, what type of villain would they face? And I came up with tulpas, and I'm sure you guys know what tulpas are, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the most popular tulpa that I could come up with right now is, of course, the Slenderman. That's the top one that I could come up with. But of course, the Slenderman is trademarked, so I couldn't use it per se. So I started doing some research, and of course, in Mexican culture, there is this thing called El Ñango, and El Ñango is pretty much the Slenderman. So he's the main villain of the Cryptidnals. He's the one that they have to face. And what Slenderman has done, and I think you're gonna enjoy this. What the Slenderman has done is that he's enthralled Bigfoot. So he has Bigfoot as a thrall, and he's doing the dirty work for the Slenderman. So there's been all these Bigfoot attacks that have been going on, and the Slenderman is controlling. I'm gonna stop saying them. The Ñango. Ñango is controlling him.
Right.
And when he's done with the Bigfoot, he turns them into rakes, and then the rakes proceed to continue wreaking havoc. Because the Bigfoot, I think, naturally a Bigfoot is not a violent animal. It's kind of like a gentle animal, and
I have to agree with you. I have to agree with you there. So,
so the Slenderman would take this animal or this, I don't know where you guys are on the fence on that. I always say animal, but it might be it's a sentient being. He takes these the sentient beings and turns them into these monsters, which is even more horrifying for them. And then once he's done with them, they turn into rakes. And then on top of that, the Bigfoot starts stealing children, and the Ñango turns them into black-eyed kids, which is, I think, the modern version of Nosferatu's. Doing the research and reading all the black-eyed kid stories and stuff like that. So that's his little army that he has in order to try and get a foothold in this reality, and without giving away too much, finish what had already begun, many years ago. Those are the bad guys.
I'm liking it, man. That sounds good. I mean, that's right up. That's right up our alley, right? Right, guys.
Yeah. That's wow. I'm speechless on that.
I'm glad you guys are liking it. That's good. I'm glad, and it's something that I wanted to bring some sort of originality to the genre, because of course, we're all, love superheroes and we love monsters, and how could I combine the two and make it like a horror comic, and give you something new, something that's never been seen before. And so far, that's what everyone says, like, wow, I never thought about it like that. I've never seen that before. So I'm hoping that this really, really becomes, popular and people get real behind it. So
I don't think that, and this is just my opinion, I could be wrong. I don't think there's that many people that do cryptid books are actually researchers or investigators. So I know I've talked to you like in the past, or like traded like messages with you, and I listened to another podcast. You're like a investigator, a paranormal investigator, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I don't think there's very many people writing or creating comic books that actually do the work. And so I know Proof came out, I think, like 6 or 7 years ago. And that was a story about a Bigfoot that was a federal investigator or something. No. I think it was Image Comics. And
yeah, it was Image.
So the guy, the creator and the writer of that one wrote to me and another researcher and asked us our opinion about it. And we told him what we thought about what a Bigfoot is and stuff like that. And he actually let me write like a little small piece in the very end of his comic. It was editor section. But I think that's about the only thing I've ever gotten from this guy. But that comic didn't last too long. So I think it went like, I don't know, 20 something issues, and then it stopped. So, but I'm glad that someone that investigates and researches is actually doing this. So it's kind of cool.
Well, I thank you for saying that. That's awesome. Yeah, I've tried my hardest to get all the facts straight, to make sure that it's presented in a way where it's not only based in reality, but of course, there's that suspension of disbelief, like, oh shit, maybe this could happen, so that people get really drawn into it, and they take away more, they take the curiosity away with them, and they want to continue doing the research. They want to continue learning more about these creatures.
Awesome. Good stuff, man. I can't wait till it comes out, man. So,
yes.
Are you going to be doing Are you going to be doing rounds at comic book conventions and stuff whenever stuff opens up?
Yes, definitely. Once it opens up, 6x6, the group that I'm with, the faction or whatever, we have a lot of books that we've been working on. A lot of books that are, I guess, just sitting on the shelf, that we need to get out. So it's not just the Cryptidnals that's going to come out, but a bunch of other variety of graphic novels, comics, whatever you want to call them, that are going to be presented once everything opens up again, of course.
Since I kind of touched on a little bit about you being paranormal investigator, anything else you want to talk about the comic? If you want to move on to that, that's.
The only thing I want to say is right now the comic book is on Indiegogo. It's in pre-campaign mode.
Okay.
And we are offering a free enamel pin of a Wendigo skull when you sign up for the campaign for the book.
Okay.
Once the campaign goes live and you purchase the book, those that have signed up before the campaign launches will receive that free enamel pin.
Okay.
So that's kind of like a perk that we're offering, and you can find that on Indiegogo as the Cryptidnals.
Whenever we're done here, I'll get all the links for you, and I'll load it on to the podcast. So
awesome, appreciate it.
So awesome, that's good stuff. Okay, so let's jump right into some of your paranormal stuff. All right, have you had any cryptid stuff, like Bigfoot stuff, or?
The biggest cryptid, or the thing that got me all interested in all of this was La Llorona.
Okay.
La Llorona, I had an experience with La Llorona, and that changed me completely forever. And I was 12 years old when it happened, and I started doing the research after that, like trying to get more into that whole paranormal type, cryptid type knowledge that I wanted to have. And I've told this story a lot of times, so I don't know if you guys want to hear it.
Of course, because I'm sure our listeners want to listen to the story, because I know I want to.
Yeah.
So it happened when I was 12 years old, living in El Paso. It's a border town, of course. The Rio Grande is practically right there. I could throw a rock and hit the Rio Grande in Mexico. That's how close we are. And my sister lived in the section, and this is before the 90s hit and everything started getting all urban. She lived in a section of El Paso that was kind of off to the side, like not really very, very urban. It was called Moon City. Now, Moon City was a community of people that kind of just set up their own houses. They built them from scratch, and they lived kind of segregated away from the main city of El Paso. So the only way to get any sort of TV out there, and I'm going to date my age by saying this, but the only way to get any sort of entertainment, any TV out there, was to get a satellite dish. And this is before like DirecTV and all that stuff.
The
and
big
my brother-in-law,
the big one,
the big
exactly.
ones that you had to turn like.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're familiar with that type of technology, you know that during that time, if you wanted to watch a certain program, you'd have to turn the satellite at a certain time to get that reception. So my brother-in-law told me about the satellite, and he's like, "Hey, Raymond, do you want to come over this weekend and spend the night? And if you want, we can watch the Playboy Channel." Oh, wow, I'm 12 years old, and I get to watch the Playboy Channel. Hell yeah.
I'm in.
On my way now.
I'm there. And so my sister made the arrangements. She told my parents I was going over to watch, whatever. She didn't tell them the truth, of course, and we went. And the way that the house was set up, and this is part of the story, so I'm going to explain to you. The way that the house was set up was my brother-in-law lived in the garage that was attached to the main house where his mom lived, which was my sister-in-law's mother-in-law, or my sister's mother-in-law. So the garage was a perfect square, and it was attached. And in the front, you would drive up into the driveway, and there was the main front of the garage was a cinder block, and in the middle was this huge oak door. Like the door was at least maybe 5 or 6 inches thick. It was huge. And the way my brother had set it up, because he's the one that built the addition to the house, was as soon as you walked in through that door, immediately to your left, there was another door that led into the backyard where the dogs were, the backyard stuff. Immediately in front of you was the living room. And it was kind of like a shotgun build, everything just went to the back. So immediately was the living room. There was a couch directly in front of you and a couch off to your right-hand side, and there was a doorway on the left that led into the kitchen, and the kitchen led to the back, and that was where the bedroom was. And behind the bedroom, on the outside, there was a small, little walk area, and behind that, there was a wall and a canal. and there was nothing but fields after that. It was an irrigation canal, and there was nothing but fields. It was like if they had chile and cotton and stuff like that. So I went, I had gone to my sister's house before. I knew the setup. Showed up. We're hanging out. My sister's kids, my nephews and nieces, they go to bed early. My brother-in-law and I made pizzas. We were sitting there in the living room with my sister. He was drinking the beer. I was drinking my Dr. Pepper. And it started getting later. And the only way to watch the Playboy channel was to wait until midnight and to turn the satellite at that time. That's when it came on. So we waited and we waited and waited. And finally my sister's like, you know what, I'm done. I'm going to sleep. You guys can do whatever you want. And she took off. And my brother-in-law was like, all right, here it comes. We turned it on, set it up, and started watching it where, I was enthralled. I got to see boobies at 12 years old. I was up after hours, all this stuff. But I guess, after a while, I kind of passed out. I passed out on the couch, and I was against the wall. And my brother-in-law was on the other couch, and he passed out as well. So I'm asleep, and all of a sudden I hear loud banging on that door. I'm like, boom, 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 boom. I hear it, like, oh, crap. And it woke me up. It was so loud. And when I woke up, I noticed that the dogs were going crazy. They were barking like mad. And I sat up, and I didn't bother looking to where my brother-in-law was. I just sat up thinking that he had locked himself out. So I got up, and I started walking towards the door, and the dogs are going crazy. And as soon as I got to the door, my brother-in-law sat up from the couch. He, bolted up, and he's like, whoa, stop. Don't open the door. And I'm like, what the hell? And as I turned to look at him, he said, that's La Llorona. Don't open the door. If you open the door, she's going to come in here and take us all. And it registered in my head, but I couldn't believe it. And as I turned to look at the door, that's when I heard it. And I can't describe the sound. It's just like this sound of someone crying in utter despair, like they lost everything in their life. I can't even describe it.
A woman's voice?
Yes, it was a woman's voice, a woman's cry for help, and it was it was super loud. The dogs shut up. The dogs quit barking, and they started whimpering. And I'm standing there by the door, and I had this overwhelming compulsion to open the door. And I couldn't, I was like, what is behind the door? I wasn't so much scared as I was curious as to what it was, because I had never heard anything like that before. And my brother-in-law's sitting there, and he's like, come back over here. And I was compelled. I wanted to open that door. I could not stop myself. And I remember, to this day, I get chills just thinking about it, because I had my hand on the handle to open it. And this thing is just like right there. It's yelling, it's screaming. But the thing that snapped me out of it, the thing that scared the crap out of me, and even right now I'm thinking about it, the thing that scared me was it cried, and when it stopped crying, it took a breath. It took a breath, and it sounded like someone trying to breathe underwater. You could hear the gurgling, I can't even reenact that sound. And that's what scared me. And to this day, I still remember that sound, like trying to breathe desperately underwater. And I was like, man, what is that? And I was so terrified, but at the same time, so excited and curious to see it. I wanted to see it. And it took everything I had to let go of that door and go back and sit down on the couch. And I was sitting there, and the thing kept going, and it seemed like forever. And my sister came out of the bedroom, and she's standing there in the doorway, and she's like, oh, it's happening again. And I'm like, what do you mean again? What are you talking about again? Like, you guys live with this? Like, how can you possibly live with this? And it seemed like forever, and finally the thing stopped. And when it stopped, that's the freaky part that I think was the freaky part. It stopped, and there was this immense, intense light source that came in between the cracks in the cinder blocks and underneath the door. And the only way I can describe it is sunlight. That's the intensity that it had. It was blinding. And it came in, and it illuminated everything inside the room, underneath the cracks of the cinder blocks, underneath the door. And then just like that, it faded. And it didn't turn off just flick off a light. It kind of faded away. And it went away. And as soon as it went away, the dog started barking again. And everything seemed to be animated again. Like everything was happening all over again. And my sister was sitting there with my brother-in-law, and I looked at them, and I was like, what the hell just happened? What the hell was that? And he's like, don't worry about it. We'll talk about it some other time. Let's go back to sleep. Don't worry about it. Don't give it any attention. Just go to sleep. And I did. You know, I listened to him, and I did. But I was very troubled sleep. And the next day when I woke up, I asked them again, like, what happened? What did we experience? What did we experience last night? What's going on? And they were like, don't worry about it, man. You know, we'll talk about it some other time. Just leave it alone. That's what we always do. Just leave it alone. Don't give it any attention. Like, okay, fine. And, the rest of the weekend kind of normalized after that. Everything kind of like sped up again. I went back home, but it always weighed on my mind. Like, what did I see? What did I experience? And years later, when I was 18, I asked them. And that's how long it took me before I had another opportunity to get them to talk about it. And they were like, it's La Llorona. It's what we consider La Llorona to be, because of what it did. You know, how it screamed, how it cried, how we reacted to it, how the dog shut up, and everything like that. And my sister went on to tell me that she had actually seen her in the backyard one time, and that she looked like a very like dirty woman, a woman that was wearing a very dirty set of clothes,
like tattered,
rolling around the dirt, like tattered,
right?
Mm-hmm. And that her eyes were very sunken, almost like eyeless to that point, but you could see like wrinkles around the edges where it appeared that she had been crying, but she had dirty matted hair and everything. And I started putting the pieces together. I started remembering a bunch of stuff that had happened during that time and over the years. And I remember that my brother-in-law and my sister were very much into the occult. And they had a lot of items in the house that now, looking back, were occult items. They had books I had never seen before. That's the first time that I read, the Necronomicon without actually knowing what it was, and the Satanic Bible as well. They had those pieces of occult literature, and then it started making more sense. Like, what? Maybe it wasn't La Llorona, but maybe it was. Maybe it was a manifestation of something that they had created. To me, it makes sense, but I tell other people, and they're like, "Well, what are you talking about?" And that's my experience. That right there. That's like the main gist of what I saw, what I felt.
I have a couple questions.
Yes.
Whenever you had the experience, was it at 3 a.m.?
See, and that's the thing. I don't remember. I want to say it was because it was after I passed out after watching TV.
Okay.
But I don't remember the time. So it might have been after 2 a.m. or something like that.
Yeah.
So it is a possibility.
And the other thing I was kind of thinking, and Ash, you could chime in on this, but maybe the house or the grounds is tied in to her visiting there. I know the way you were telling the story that your sister said, "Oh, it's happening again." So it must happen like a couple times more where they were just used to it and just choose to ignore it or not invite it in. So I'm kind of thinking that either, like you were saying about your family was about the occults and stuff, but I'm kind of thinking that either it's tied into that canal or that property or that house. Ash, what do you think?
Both could be possible. It's just like maybe they understood what they needed to do because they knew about things like that too,
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't really say.
Yeah.
It's hard because, I don't know the history of everything down there or where it was or anything like that.
That's the only thing I could think of.
But, there's plenty of possibilities.
Yeah, I was just putting on my thinking hat. Steven, you got anything on that? Or?
Yeah, I was thinking of like same thing with Ash. Like it could be a mixture of both. Ray, did it happen again? Like, or anything else weird happen if you whenever you visited there again or anything like that?
The only thing that I remember happening when I would go visit was after dark, they would tell me to come inside. Do not go outside after dark. Don't go into the front yard. Don't go into the backyard. Next to their house, there wasn't any buildings built yet. It was a small community. So there was, the road ended, and then after that, there was nothing but like irrigation fields and stuff like that. Now, I went further into the investigation and started doing my own research later on, and I realized that across the field and up there was like kind of a little plateau, and on top of that plateau, there was an amusement park here in El Paso that was very popular. It was called Magic Landing, and
That's off Highway 10, right?
yes, exactly. You could see Magic Landing from their house, and once again, during the research, I went to find out that in that little section below Magic Landing, there was a copse of woods, and there was a lot of rituals that would happen in those woods. There was sacrifices, like animal sacrifices. You would find, burnt out areas where they had, bonfires and stuff like that. But my sister and my brother-in-law were very adamant on the fact that I shouldn't be out after dark, and that kind of started making sense because maybe they knew that this was going on back then, and they wanted to keep it hush hush or whatever. Maybe they knew people that were involved in it. My sister and my brother-in-law have passed away, in the past few years, so I don't have any way to to match everything up as far as the timelines are concerned.
Yeah.
But this is all from what I remember experiencing growing up and talking.
I'm kind of curious. Like after the show, I'd like to talk to you and maybe get the address, and maybe I could. I don't know. I'm just curious about knowing more about this property. So I don't know. That's just me. So
Yeah.
But yeah, that's actually an awesome story that got you started. And did you go home and tell your parents at all about this, or?
I told my parents, and see, that's another thing too. I told my parents, and they were like, estás pendejo, que estás hablando. You don't even know what you're talking about, and stuff like that. Now, this is the crazy part. This is where it starts getting even more intense. Because after that happened, and I went back home, I feel now that something attached itself to me because I started experiencing a lot of things at my house, and this is where it gets, you just bear with me, just hear me out.
Sure.
But my parents were not, compatible. My parents should have gotten divorced a very, very long time ago and lived separate lives, and they would have been happy people. But no, they decided to do the Mexican thing and stick it out for the kids, and everybody else suffered for it. So I was the only one that was left at the house, and I had to deal with my parents, just not liking each other. So there was a lot of negativity in that home, and that negativity wouldn't go anywhere. It would just sit there in the house, and you could feel it walking into the house. And I started observing that there were certain things that were happening inside the house and outside the house as well over the years. My friends were afraid to go pick me up after dark. They wouldn't step into the front yard after dark because they would see shadow people. And I started seeing them as well. My wife, when we were living there with my parents, she started seeing them. The Hat Man made an appearance as well. It was crazy. And I tell the story to everybody, and they're like, "No, it didn't happen. And then they go back and they start thinking about it. Like, wait a minute, I did see something at the house this one time. I have this one friend that will not set foot at my parents' house because of what he experienced as well. And this was like years later. This was after I had gotten married and we were still living there with my parents. But I started experiencing stuff like that, and I would hear chains outside my room, outside my window. I would hear voices outside, but the shadow people were the ones that took the cake because they would follow my mother up and down the hallway. They would stand in the corners. You could see them, and my dad would call them bultos negros, which is a black form. And my dad has passed away, but my mom is still around. And when I try to talk to her about it, she just kind of dismisses me immediately. She doesn't want anything to do with it. She kind of does the sign of the cross. She doesn't want anything to do with it. But there were certain things that I remember growing up that had happened that kind of ties everything together once again. That's why I feel that whatever I experienced at 12 kind of attached itself to me and followed me back home.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from the shadow people, there would be strange occurrences. This one time, I found a dead raven in the backyard, and it had been strangled with a red ribbon around its neck, someone had murdered it. And I went and I told my mother about it. And I remember I was about 16, more or less, because I had just gotten my driver's permit. And she told me exactly what to do with it. She said, "Okay, you found this thing. I want you to take it put it in a can, go by the river or go by somewhere where there's running water, a canal, doesn't matter, burn it, and then throw it in the water. Throw everything in the water and leave it there. And I remember, being a 16-year-old, I was like, esta señora está loca, whatever, But I'm going to do what my mom said. But instead of going and doing exactly what she said, I did the teenage thing and half-assed it and kind of did whatever. And I went and I took the raven, I put it in a can, I went to the edge of this canal that I found, and I threw it in the water. I didn't bother burning it. I just threw it in the water. And after I did that, things started intensifying around the house. Like more shadow people would show up. I would look in the backyard in the middle of the night, and you could see them walking around. I call it swarming, like sharks. They would be moving around in the backyard like that. You could see them going over the wall like venom. That's the only way I can describe them. They move kind of like venom. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you guys have seen the Ghost of Carmel, Maine, the YouTube channel.
I think I don't maybe know the name of it, but I think I have seen it.
It's called the Lamb House, I think. And this man has been documenting these shadow people that live inside his house. And when I first saw it, when my wife and I first saw it, we're like, holy crap, that's exactly what we would see. These things are in the corners, and they move like venom, and they move really fast. And she experienced it as well, and it scared the crap out of her when she was living there. But it all started, or rather started intensifying when that raven appeared. So I don't know if my parents were into some shit that I don't know about, and that this was a fallout from it as well.
Yeah, it sounds like some bruja stuff. That's what it sounds like to me.
Exactly.
So,
and
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that, that's pretty intense, and like your parents saw it too, and your mom, and they just like dismissed it. And because like if you were getting more stuff, did your mom like question you about it, whether you did that procedure or not, or correct or not, or what?
Yeah, she asked me, like, did you go and did you do what you needed to do, what I asked you to do? And I'm like, yeah, of course, It's like looking like in Big Trouble in Little China. Yeah. No, in Army of the Darkness. Yeah, I said the words. I know what's going on. But, yeah, I think I messed up by not doing exactly what she told me to do, because she was onto something. She knew something was going on.
Yeah.
I also remember her taking me with her to see a santera when I was like 15. She was always deathly afraid of my father leaving her. She always accused him of having like other women in his life. My father was very dedicated to her, really, really loved her. My mother, on the other hand, didn't love my father as much as he did. And I think that also came into play with, she had some mental issues as well. And she went to the santera when I was 15. I went with her, and the santera told her, what you need to do is you need to get, you need to bind him to you. So you need to get a piece of his clothing and make a little doll, and then leave it somewhere in the house where he can't find it. And that way he'll never stray. He'll never go anywhere. And I remember that experience. I remember being there with her. And then years later, many, many years later, I was in my 20s, I accidentally came upon this little doll inside the house that was kind of like a little man, and I undid it, and it was my dad's underwear. I was like, what the hell? It was clean, but it was my dad's underwear, and I was like, what the hell, man? So what was this lady into? My mom was very dedicated to the church. She was dedicated to both churches. My brother always used to make fun of her because she would go to the Christian church in the morning and she would go to the Catholic church in the afternoon.
Wow.
And my brother was always making fun of her, like, yeah, she just wants to have all her bases covered, so she can get into heaven. And stuff.
Well,
wow.
It sounded like she
really?
did.
It sounded like she did.
All around.
Exactly.
There's nothing wrong with that, man.
True. So, all those experiences culminated in a bunch of craziness that was going on in the house and outside the house as well.
Wow, that's the underwear thing. And did you guys go across the border to go to this? Whenever.
Yes.
Okay, I was kind of curious on that.
Yeah, my parents would go visit, family in the border, across the border and stuff. I remember going with them a few times. They would go up to where. I don't know if you guys are familiar with El Paso, but there's a mountain on the Juarez side, and it says Lea la Biblia or something like that. And that's where they would go visit my my aunt and stuff like that, all the way up in La Sierra, all the way up there. And there was always like I don't know, my parents always it seemed like there was always some sort of mystery to everything that they did.
That
there was like
that mountain, it's over there close to that amusement park, right?
It's across. It's on the Juarez side,
right.
the La Biblia mountain. But the amusement park, the Magic Landing, was demolished many years ago. It's like a trailer warehouse now.
Okay.
But I'll send you the information when we're off, so you can investigate
okay.
yourself.
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious on trying to find out, information. That's just how I am, man. I'm sorry.
No. That's a good way to be. I mean, that's why we love what we do, right? Because we find out all this stuff and try to put all the pieces together. So.
Yeah, being a Bigfoot researcher for 10 years, and then I was like a case director for a paranormal group for like 6. So it's just like in my blood to find out what's going on and try to help people. So I don't know. It's just how I am.
See, and I'm glad that you're bringing that up because I have a question for you.
Yes.
And hopefully you can shed some more light into this, or maybe you can do some research on your end and talk to people that you know. So a few weeks ago, a few months ago, this was in October, I was listening to Sasquatch Chronicles.
Okay, yeah. And Wes, I know Wes. Yes.
So I was listening to Wes, and he played this one, recording that he had of someone that had called in talking about a Bigfoot incident that happened near Midland or something like that. And he made reference to an incident that happened in El Paso. And that immediately caught my attention. I was like, what? What's going on? And what happened in El Paso was apparently there was a SWAT team that was doing exercises out in Waco Tanks, and I know exactly where that is. It's like a training area. And the SWAT team was doing exercises, and after they were done, they were coming back into El Paso, but they were going through Horizon, and they ran into this Bigfoot, this desert ape. They ran into him over there, and that the thing rushed their vehicle, and they were so afraid. And these are SWAT team guys, and they were so afraid. They were braced for impact, but the thing kind of swerved off to the side and ran into the desert. Mm-hmm. And I've been curious about that ever since because I know about the Horizon City monster. There's a desert ape that the people were seeing in Horizon in El Paso, and I've read up the research on that, and come to my own conclusions about that. But this was the first time that I ever heard about something this intense happening in El Paso that it actually attacked.
I would say that it's possible that maybe this Bigfoot came over from New Mexico and just was wandering and but I have heard other stories. I talked to this one dude one time. He was a telephone he worked for a telephone company out in East Texas over by the Louisiana border, and he was going up poles in this wooded area, and as he was going up the pole, making repairs, rocks were being thrown at him, and he was trying to figure out what the heck's going on. And eventually he looks around, and then there's a Bigfoot, standing on the tree line throwing rocks at him. So he freaked out, came down the pole, and this Bigfoot was watching him, and he ran to his vehicle. The Bigfoot ran to the vehicle too. He started the vehicle up and then took off, and this Bigfoot just mirrored the car. It wasn't trying to hit him or attack, grab him or anything. It just made him leave the area. So he left and he didn't go back. And so I asked him to go on the record. He did not want to. But this story that you're telling me about, Wes talking about it, that makes sense of a Bigfoot, charging a car, making them leave to get him out of there and then taking off. So it makes sense.
Oh, man. See, and when I started doing more research into that story, I couldn't find who had called in originally to talk about this. But I started asking questions like some of the people that I knew that worked in Waco Tanks, some of the rangers, started remembering stuff that they had told me. And I remember them telling me a story about cave paintings, these pictographs that were out in Waco Tanks. And that's why Waco Tanks is so, I guess, guarded, I guess you could say, because there's these pictographs out there that show, this thing. And they had told me, these things have been out here. They're guardians, and right away when he said that, they're guardians, I'm like, okay, I know that, I know what he's talking about. That the natives in the area would consider them sacred because they live in the desert. They live harmonious. As long as you don't mess with them, they won't mess with you.
Right.
They live in the cave systems that are in Waco tanks, and that was it. And a lot of that area out there is not really, I guess,
Conducive.
yeah, exactly, to go out there and look. So that kind of made sense to me as well. And what you're telling me now, that makes even more sense. If this thing was out there.
Yeah. I don't ever like to push this group, but I would say go on bfro.net. They have like the biggest Bigfoot database that you can find. Like, granted, there's not going to be every incident like in there, but if you look up Texas, look up your county, you might be able to find it in there. You might not, or you might find something that's related to it or something close to it. So I would do that. I would check that out, because every time there's like one Bigfoot sightings, there's probably like 10 that doesn't get reported at all. So it's possible that these guys didn't go on anywhere and do it, but you could go on there and maybe find it. I don't know.
No, definitely. I'll look that up. Thanks for the information. I've just been curious about that ever since I heard about it. It just blew my mind. I was like, what the hell?
And
yeah,
I know lots of Bigfoot people. I know lots of Bigfoot researchers. I know lots of groups, and I have never heard of that story. So that's just me. I mean, I'm not saying I'm the authority on stories, but but I get whiff of stories constantly, and I hear about them on different chats and different emails and just different stuff. So, but I would like research that and I'm probably going to research that as well too. So.
Yeah, if you get a chance, look into it, especially the sightings that were going on in the late 80s and early 90s up of Horizon. The Horizon City Monster is what they called it.
Wow.
This thing was out there, and it was going into the country club area, and they had a little private lake. And back then, Horizon wasn't as populated as it is now. So that was the only area in Horizon that had, like, a lake, that had water, and it had ducks. And the reason that people got all nervous was because they caught this thing going into the little area and eating the ducks out of the lake. And I was like, what? And I started doing more research into it, and people were getting their pets stolen or supposedly stolen, and then they find them later on or what was left of them. And we started putting the pieces together and saying that it was this Horizon City Monster.
I was just gonna say that I just typed it up. I just typed up Horizon City Monster on Google, and it pulled up a 2003, July 31st, 2003. Cecilia Montez saw a creature 7 foot tall on East Lake Boulevard on Daring Road.
Oh, I know exactly where that is.
I saw a big gorilla using and walking toward the desert, Montez said. Wow. Okay, I'm gonna start checking that out now. So
yeah, check it out. You know what kind of sucks now is that East Lake is super saturated with people now.
Yeah,
that whole area used to be very, very empty, like that, in the desert. But now it's like you can't go anywhere without hitting a house or hitting a business, and people and cars everywhere. Darrington Road is the same way now, and it kind of sucks because I think they're pushing these guys out further into the desert.
Wow, that's intriguing. Ray, we'll probably have you on again.
No worries, man. I'm good whenever you're ready.
Okay. We're at an hour now, so I just wanted to say, is there anything that you wanna talk about, like link wise, like your Facebook, you want to push that right now, your Twitter, your Instagram, anything like that?
Sure, no problem. It's Cryptidnals across all the social medias: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and on TikTok. I go under Cryptidnals as well. I've been doing the TikTok thing for a while now. I've been getting quite a few people, so I've just been doing 60-second spots and stuff. And I did talk about La Llorona on a different program. I didn't go as in depth as I did with you, so I added some more information to that.
Sweet.
So if you guys get a chance, check out my TikTok as well.
Okay.
But yeah, man, whenever you want to have me back on, I'll be happy to do it. Especially when the comic comes out.
Oh yes.
And we can talk about it. I'll send you a copy, man. So check it out.
You guys have any last questions for Ray or anything?
Ray, one question that on the Cryptidnals, are you going to? Is this going to be like a series thing that you want to do, or is it just a graphic novel?
Originally I wanted it to be a series, but then I'm like, you know what? I can't wait that long. I got so excited about doing the project that we're just gonna compress everything into one graphic novel, one shot, one kill. You get all the story. It's gonna be about 120 plus pages of that artwork that you saw. So it's gonna be pretty big.
Nice.
Awesome. And I know you don't want to spoil anything, but are you gonna mention anything or introduce El Cucuy?
Oh, dude, everyone's been talking about that. Like, are you going to put the kukui? There's a kukui in there? And I'm like, I'm going to make mention of it as well. Everyone's, like, asking about the kukui, the Mothman, you know, all these other cryptids. I'm trying to shove as many cryptids as I can into this story because of my love of the cryptozoology genre. I managed to convince Dario to even put a jackalope in there. So it's in there somewhere. Yeah, exactly. So
Ray, do a teaser that we can do like the next series.
Exactly. We have to. I'm trying to tie everything up create kind of like a universe so we can continue doing stories about the Cryptidnals because they're becoming very popular. People are really latching onto them and liking it. So
yes.
Just stay tuned and follow me on all the social medias and visit our Indiegogo and back the book once it comes out.
Yeah, Ray, like I was saying, I'll put all your links on it on whenever we put out this episode. That way people can reach out to you and stuff. So
thank you so much, Jesse. Thank you guys for giving me the opportunity. And like I said, whenever you want me back, I'm ready.
All right, man. Thank you for being on.
Alrighty, man.